So what's wrong with C-sections?
The World Health Organization says a country of our size should have a 10 to 15% C-section rate, and ours is 33 to 34%. So not only have we doubled that, but we have doubled it and a little bit more. So it's not C-sections themselves are bad. It is the way in which we utilize C-sections, right? It's the way in which there are so many unnecessary C-sections that are happening in our country, and that it has become the default for many otherwise normal births. Two that I can think of. One, twins, which many sets of twins are appropriate for vaginal delivery. But in the U.S., there are so many hospital policies and providers who will automatically tell a woman she has to have a C-section because she has twins. The second one is breech. Now, this is largely in part to the term breech trial that was published in the year 2000. And not only was it a very flawed trial, but it was actually redacted years later, but the damage had already been done. Medical schools had stopped teaching skills of breech birth. Hospitals had put policies in place to quote unquote ban breech birth. And so when we look at our C-section rate, there are some very easy, low-hanging fruit items that we could easily do in a very affordable way. Really easy to disseminate that information and put these things into place, and we just don't do them. And so instead of having an appropriate C-section rate, which is, again, about 10 to 15%, we're seeing ours continuously climb. And it does have a ripple effect. So if you have one C-section, then you are considered a VBAC next time, vaginal birth after cesarean. Not all providers are comfortable with this. Not all hospitals support or quote unquote allow a VBAC. And so that takes a woman's choice from any provider, any facility quite down to a narrowed, I have to find a VBAC comfortable and supportive provider, and I have to find a facility that allows it, quote unquote, right? And not only that, but you have to think about the physiological impacts as well. So what does that scar tissue do to her body? How does that impact her fertility going forward? How will it impact the way that she carries her next pregnancy? How will it impact the way that her placenta adheres to her uterus? What if that placenta adheres to the uterine scar? Is that a problem? And it is a lot of times. And so we have to think about that later down the line effect. And this is one of the things that's really missing in the conversations of what we call primary C-sections or a woman's first C-section.
So would you say that a C-section lowers your fertility chances for future births?
So it can. We know that depending on how that uterine scar heals, it certainly can, because it can cause what we call torsions, and that's tensions in the muscles and the tendons and the ligament. And so if a woman is not aware of or doesn't have access to, let's say, a PFPT who can do scar massage to help her body heal in an appropriate way, just as we give to athletes PT, scar healing, follow-up, there is nothing for women. And so sometimes we really do see women that have, after a C-section, their uterus is completely tilted or their pelvis is completely unaligned. And so when they do try for a second baby, their body is just not in a place to receive that pregnancy and stick with it. And so, yes, it can. It is not a surefire thing. And that is not to say that every woman who has a C-section is going to go on to have fertility complications, but it certainly is a risk factor that should be discussed in the setting of a primary C-section for sure.
That's crazy. What about for the baby? What are the negatives of a C-section?
Yeah, great question. So when we're looking at vaginal birth, we know that your baby gets a lot of what we call catecholamines. And these are chemicals that are released by the woman's body. And so if we have a scheduled C-section and that woman never experiences the onset of labor, then that baby is completely robbed of being showered in those catecholamines. We also know that passing through the vaginal canal helps inoculate that baby's immune system. Not only is the mom's vaginal flora doing a large part of that, but kind of funny enough and a little awkward, but fecal matter is very much part of the birth process. That mom's fecal matter will get on that baby and help do the same thing, kind of boost their immune system or inoculate their immune system, because babies come here in a quite, they're a clean slate. I don't want to say sterile because they've been in amniotic fluid, they've been in that mom's body, but they have a very low immune system. When we take a baby out via C-section, not only do they have antibiotics coursing through their body because mom has been given antibiotics because of the risk of infection associated with a C-section, but you also miss out on the catecholamines if it's scheduled. You miss out on that vaginal flora. You miss out on the exposure to fecal matter. And then we also see some other impacts, like babies who are born via C-section do have a higher risk of a NICU stay simply because, well, there's a lot of reasons, actually. It's possible that we took them out too early, and they aren't able to actually breathe on their own, so they experience respiratory distress. It's possible that because they did not go through that vaginal canal and they went through that very tight squeezing process, they actually still have fluid in their lungs. Again, respiratory distress, so then you would need a NICU stay. Longer term things, we see eczema be connected with C-sections, and then other health outcomes like cardiac complications, diabetes, and I believe ADHD, but don't quote me on that one.
And so these are complications that can stay with the person throughout their whole life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and, again, I don't want to demonize C-sections. There are appropriate times that we need a C-section. The question is this baby safer on the outside than they are the inside? And if they are, then yes, let's get them out. Thank God we have C-sections. But if not, do we have time to wait? Can we engage in maternal positioning, which means just like get that mom in a different position? Can we get her in hands and knees and off her back? Can we not induce for 39 weeks and instead wait for spontaneous labor? If it is a quote unquote failure to progress, which means this mom's body has appeared to stop working in labor, maybe we should question some other things. Is she feeling safe? Is the environment conducive? Are the people in her room talking to her kindly? Are they talking to her gently? Are they supportive of her ideas? Or is she stuck in fight or flight because she has someone in her room who is badgering her, who doesn't believe in her, who is telling her, just get the epidural, just get the epidural, just get the epidural. And she's like, I don't want it. And eventually she's just like, fine, just give me the epidural. I'm tired of fighting with you, right? Labor should never be a fight.